Have you ever spoken to a group of people, maybe your colleagues, potential customers, an audience full of people, and noticed that one or two faces looked like they were maybe tuning out, or they were confused, or maybe even skeptical about what you were saying? If so, you're not alone, and today's blog post is for you. My name's Bren, and I'm the founder and CEO of Self-Spoken, a communication coaching firm for big-hearted go-getters who want to find that sweet spot between coming across as a pro and staying true to who they are in all of their face-to-face interactions. So earlier this week, I was working with a tech company, a group of about 100 people who are really the people within their organization who everyone calls when shit hits the fan. And we worked on all sorts of skills like how to establish trust off the bat, how to project credibility when you're the one who everyone's looking to give the next best direction. And one of the guys at the end of the session asked a question that I get all the time. He said, what do you do if, when you're talking to people, someone or maybe a couple people look like they're tuning out or they're not really buying what you're saying? And to him I said three things. The first thing I learned from my mentor, Kara, years ago. She said, if you want people to pay attention to you the entire time, you have got to pay attention to them. Meaning you gotta make sure you're making and holding genuine eye contact. You gotta make sure that you're using your hands to really illustrate your ideas and get that interaction going. And you also wanna make sure that you're really tracking whether or not people are receiving the information you're throwing out there. Are their heads nodding? Are they closing off their body language? If so, those might be cues that they're not really engaged with you, they're not really tracking what you're saying. So first and foremost, make sure you're really engaged with people if you want them to be engaged with you. The second thing I said to this guy is that 9 times out of 10, people have no clue what they look like when they're listening to you. Last week, I was working with a law firm I was working with about 200 attorneys, and I noticed from the very beginning, and this happens all the time, there was a guy who was looking at me, listening to me for the next 2 hours like this. He was the same guy who came up to me afterward and told me that that was one of the most exceptional presentations he'd ever seen. And then he followed up later to learn more about my training options. So his listening face had nothing to do with how he was receiving the information. He had no idea that the face that he was wearing was broadcasting this skeptical, confused, not sure about me message. So my second response to that guy was just don't take it personally. They have no idea what they look like. And my third response was if someone's facial expression when they're listening to you is concerning enough or distracting enough that it's really worth checking in about it, make sure you do so in the least presumptuous way possible. You might say something like, hey, you seem like you might be frustrated with what I'm saying, or you're not really buying it. I just want to check in. Am I making that up? Is that my perception? Or you might say, hey, you seem like you might be confused about what I'm saying. Is that my guess? What's really going on here? Something like that. You're leading with curiosity as opposed to accusing anyone of what they're thinking or feeling, because you can't possibly know. So bottom line, make sure you're engaging with them so that they stay engaged with you. Don't take the way people listen personally, and check in with people in a curious, generous way. Don't presume anything, don't accuse anyone. And now I'd love to hear from you. Tell me, what kind of situations have you dealt with that bring this to mind? How have you dealt with this kind of thing in the past? And how might you use one or maybe all of these strategies in the future? Comment below and let us know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure that you're subscribed for our e-tribe. You can scroll down below and type in your name and email address. You'll get instant access to a free training I made called How to Get Out of Your Head and Into the Moment. 3 science-backed strategies for dialing down that self-consciousness on the inside and communicating with more authentic self-confidence on the outside. Keep showing up as that you most want to be. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you next week on the Self-Spoken blog.